You're watching Next Pitch, the student athlete playbook for parents raising tomorrow's athletes.
Hi, my name's Anthony Leveritz, host of the Next Pitch podcast. And on behalf of my Emmy Award-winning producer, Jason Cardona, we are thrilled to bring you an interview today with Valorie Kondos Field. I am not going to do her justice in this intro, but she is a 7-time national championship coach at UCLA, gymnastics coach, 4-time national coach of the year in the UCLA Athletics Hall of Fame, and a cancer survivor, which we dive into. We have a really remarkable conversation that I enjoyed immensely, covering all sorts of topics related to sports and life. Really appreciate her coming on the show, and I hope you enjoy the show as much as I did. Miss Val, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a blast. Your background is so diverse and have so many different directions we can go with this conversation. But first of all, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Well, here we go. I'm going to start off with the class that you teach. And I read a little something, and it says life and death, senior citizen sex, Alex Rodriguez, and senior and performance enhancing drugs. Yeah, I want to take your class. Like, how do I enroll? And tell me a little bit about how you got involved in that.
Okay, talk about clickbait, right? That title. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, the senior citizen sex is not me, although I was just told by one of my athletes I am a senior citizen. So, okay. The class got started during COVID, actually, when we had 5th and 6th year student athletes that were trying to remain eligible, but they had to be in a course. And so we went to the Graduate School of Education, and UCLA Athletics and Graduate School of Education partnered together. And in my opinion, it's a practical program in leadership and coaching. And it's called Transformational Coaching and Leadership. And I believe that there's 9 courses that you take over a year and a half or so. And they've asked me to teach. They asked me like 6 years ago when we started to teach the philosophy of coaching and leadership. And the fun part is my professor that I teach with is a philosophy professor. He knows nothing about athletics. And it's so much fun. He says, Miss Val, you're going to take the lead. And I said, okay, but every once in a while, I'm going to throw an audible. And he goes, and after we got done with our first meeting, he goes, okay. And he looked at his notes. He goes, what is this autoball? I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. So then they said, design the class any way you want. And I am a voracious student on leadership and coaching. So I just went to my library and I was like, okay, John Wooden, Pat Summitt, Pete Carroll, Phil Jackson, Sue Enquist, Jill Ellis. Okay, great. And just every week we study a different coach that has sustained excellence, including Bobby Knight. So I think we actually go from John Wooden to Bobby Knight.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But what's been interesting is to filter out the commonalities of what it takes to have sustained excellence.
Yeah. So in the class, I would assume that people are engaged. And I think a really important part of coaching is figuring out how to get your audience, the people either you're coaching, you're teaching, to be able to be engaged with you, right? Not just giving a message that you want to give, but giving one that's actually going to resonate with them. And a little clickbait for some 22-year-olds is not a bad way to get their attention.
You know what? It's so funny you say that. I have no problem getting them engaged. And I've told them from the beginning, this is a conversational class. This is not me up there just yapping. But it's so funny. I believe in using every opportunity in life to grow. And so you all are taking this course because you want to be strong leaders. So every time they ask a question or respond or have a comment, they need to stand up. First of all, I go in every Monday and I rearrange the room so nobody's back is to anybody else. We're in a U. And every time they speak, they need to stand up. And speak to the class. I'm giving you opportunity. This is like media opportunity or leadership opportunity. You can say thank you, you know. But the first few weeks, oh my gosh, you know, they'll start to talk, they're sitting down. I say, "Excuse me, could you please stand?" And the eye rolls, and I'm like, "You can roll your eyes all you want. If you're going to speak, please stand." By the third and the fourth week, they are owning that stage. It's hysterical. They can't jump up fast enough.
That's fantastic. So I will have talked about all of your accolades in the opening. You didn't hear me talk about them, but there are plenty that you have accomplished in your life. What what is what was it like not being a involved in gymnastics, being a dancer, and then going into a realm that you had not competed in, and going all the way from having to learn the sport, I would imagine, from the very beginning, all the way to winning a national championship and all of the other things that you have done?
That is a really good question, especially for this day and age that we're in. I was a ballerina. I've never done gymnastics in my life. I've never been involved in organized sport. And then UCLA brings me to campus in 1982 to be the dance coach for the gymnastics team. And then in 1989, they release the head coach and they offer me the job. And I literally, the AD said the athletic director said I was comatose for about 10, 15 seconds. But I remember leaning forward and going, "Do you remember I don't know the first thing about gymnastics?" And she looked at me and she said, "I trust you'll figure it out." I'm like, okay. But the reason why this is such a great question is this was 1989. This was um, a good decade or so before social media came out. Like,
Yeah.
you know, at 2 decades. And I was so inept at not understanding what I had agreed to do. I just was like, all right, I'll figure it out.
Right.
But had social media been around, oh, well, let me back up. We still received, the athletic department still received, and the university, mountains of letters, phone calls, emails saying how ludicrous this was. You took a premier program and you gave it to a joke. Like I was called a joke. And had social media been around, this is the really hard part to admit. I may not have taken the job
Yeah.
for fear of the ridicule
Yeah.
and the hate
Yeah.
that I would have gotten at the paralyzing ridicule, right?
Yeah.
Like even if I took it, it would have been daily bombardment of "I'm a joke, you're a loser, you don't know what you're doing." And I don't know, at that time how old was I? I was 30. I didn't have the skills or the tools to silence the noise at that
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
And that's something that I talk about a lot with younger people, you know, this fear of other people's opinions. Faux pas, as Michael Gervais has coined it.
Yeah.
It can be paralyzing.
Yeah, I want to read. I want to read a quote that I hope someone would say about me. Former professional Valorie Kondos Field, or Miss Val, as she's affectionately known, has never tumbled, flipped, or even played any type of organized sports, and yet she has been able to craft a legendary coaching career through curiosity, creativity, attention to detail, and unwavering care for the overall well-being of her athletes. For Miss Val, it's not about winning and losing. It's about choreographing your life and owning the choices you make. I freaking love that. If I could have that on my tombstone, I would have lived a very good life. As you took over this program, uh, to your own statement here, you didn't know what you were doing, right? You're at UCLA of all places, the gymnastics coach with no gymnastics background. How did you go from that to where you have those kinds of things said about you?
Through a lot of muck and mistake and yuck and grossness. And at the time, I knew nothing, right? So I was like, well, you know what? I grew up on stage. I can act. I'll just act like a coach. And I mean, serious. This isn't like I'm reinventing what
No,
happened.
I love
This
it.
is really what happened. So
It's great.
it's like ridiculous. Well, at the time, Bella Caroli was the greatest coach in the world. And he and his wife, Marta, they coached Mary Loretton and Nadia Comaneci and all them to gold medal. Well, I'll act like Bella. And and I had enough athletes on our team that had come from the national team that had told me stories about Bella, you know, my way or the highway, black and white, no gray. You do not have a voice. The job of a head coach is to have all the answers all the time and to strip you of who you are as a human
Mm,
so I can make you a compliant, good little soldier.
mm,
That when I say jump, you go how high.
mm,
So that takes having a bitch affect. It
mhm,
takes being demeaning.
mhm,
It takes not caring about them as a human.
mhm,
They were simply a commodity to
mhm.
help us figure out how to win a national championship.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we sucked. And and I we didn't suck because of the talent, because we're
Yeah,
UCLA. We've always been able to recruit talent.
sure.
Sucked because of me and my leadership. And I say thankfully because I think we all have lived long enough to realize that when you're winning, there's no impetus to want to change.
That's right.
So, had we been winning by me being a total dictatorial witch with a capital B, um, why would have I wouldn't have had reason to change? But we
Yeah.
didn't. We were horrible, and we didn't even. My second year, we didn't even make it to the national championships, which for UCLA was a big deal. So I was. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to go resign and tell the athletic director, I told you so. Go find somebody that actually knows what they're doing. And true story, I'm walking through the student store and on my way to the athletic department to resign, and I happen upon, it's over there in my library, a book on leadership by the great Coach Wooden.
Yeah.
And I had never met Coach Wooden at that time. And for those, I'm sure your audience knows, but Coach uh, was the men's basketball coach for UCLA. He won 10 national championships in 12 years.
He's pretty good coach.
He's good. And I'm like, well, he won. Okay. And this is the irony of all this. Like when you read that quote that you liked so much, it
Yeah.
didn't talk about winning. Okay.
No,
Coaches, as you well know, you're hired to win.
that's right.
You're not hired to be a mentor. You're not hired to develop young women, young men into these wonderful humans that go out and lead the world. You're hired to figure out how to win.
That's right.
So I opened Coach Wooden's book and I'm like, well, let's see what he has to say about winning. And it magically opens to his definition of success.
Mm.
And I read, success is peace of mind and knowing you've done your best. I'm like, well, that's a cute little Hallmark card. And I flip, like trying to find where he's going to talk about the W word. And it's this thick book, and there's no, he does not talk about winning. So I go back to his definition of success. Success is peace of mind and knowing you have done your best. And I read this quote over and over. Like it's one of those things like when they make the movie of this, it's going to be super spectacular because everything's going to fade
Yeah.
and we're going to hone in on those words.
Yeah.
And I had the biggest aha moment of my life.
Yeah.
Success is peace of mind in knowing you, Valorie, have done your best.
Yeah.
I had been trying to be Bella Caroli.
Mm.
And in that moment, I realized when you try to be somebody else, you will always be a second rate them. So
Yeah.
even if I was succeeding, I would never be as good at Bella being Bella as Bella was being Bella. And the worst thing that happens, okay, younger people, pay attention here. The worst thing that happens when you compare yourself to someone else and try to be like them, You're spending all this time and energy preventing yourself from becoming a first-rate you. So I didn't resign. And I went back to my office and I thought, all right, well, we can't get any worse than we've already done. What do I bring to the table?
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I didn't care. I love to win. I think we're all born and we've got this hard drive in us with we're competitive. I am
That's right.
very competitive.
Yeah.
But winning at all cost, that wasn't I didn't grow up with that. I grew up on stage where there was no winning. It was work your ass off, prepare really, really well. So when you're standing in the wings, you are mentally, emotionally, and physically ready to go on stage and be calm, confident, enthusiastic. I was like, okay, well, the waiting in the wings for a gymnast is right before they salute the judge. And when you look at them, some of them they can't catch their breath and they've got sweaty palms and they're asking for water because their mouth is dry. They're not calm and confident. They're not fully prepared. I was like, I can do that. I don't know how to teach a cartwheel, but I can do that.
That's
So,
so awesome. You, one of my mentors, I want to get into mentorship with you here eventually, but one of my mentors had a chance to work under Coach Wooden as a young guy, and did his master's degree at UCLA and studied Coach Wooden and his practices, and he taught me at a very young age. And I'm curious if you came across this or think about this the same way. Winning is important, or we don't have a job, right? Like we
yeah.
want to teach kids how to win, but winning through having your kids fear you and being fear of demeaning them and fear of repercussions for poor performance, it can be a motivator, but it's a very short motivator. And eventually that person's is not going to compete for you in the way that you want them to. On the other hand, if a kid knows that you love them, you care about them, you share a vision for them, you're committed to their success, and are going to dive in with them 100% the way you want them to dive in with you, that kid eventually is going to do everything they can to compete for you and them. And thinking to making that change in that thought process takes work. And the fact that you figured that out pretty early in your career without someone having to tell you is pretty remarkable.
It does take work, and it's so much easier just to coach focusing on winning.
Yeah.
It's so much easier just to coach the drills and the skills, the X's
Yeah.
and O's, whatever your metaphor you want,
Yeah.
because you just go in and you dictate and then you go home.
Yeah.
The hard part, as you said, is the grind is putting in the time, the emotional effort into developing a relationship
That's right.
with your student athletes. That's where the trust comes. And when I talk about that, some people are like, I don't have time to go to lunch with every one of my student athletes. It's not about that. It's about the drip method. It's
Yeah.
about using these micro moments of opportunity
Yeah.
to develop a relationship. And
Yeah.
when I look back on my career, I'd love to say that all the student athletes I coach love Miss Val. Well, no, some of them don't love Miss Val. And the commonality is I didn't have a relationship with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was just so much rub that I didn't take a pause and go, how am I going to figure out how to get this person to realize we're on the same team? I
That
didn't.
is such an important point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for young coaches out there, this isn't just at the collegiate or professional level or the Olympic level. This is coaching youth sports. Like it's even worse when your little kids fear you. And it doesn't take very much to build a relationship with a fourth grader, fifth grader, sixth grader. Just asking them a simple question, it begins that process for most kids.
You know what? And we mentioned Bobby Knight. First of all, I believe our whole system needs to be turned around. I believe the coaches that coach children and the teachers that teach children, they need to make the big bucks because they're laying that foundation.
100%.
It's ridiculous.
I agree.
But we mentioned Bobby Knight, and with another part of my class that is just fantastic is most classes we have a guest the last hour of the class that is either played for or coached with the person we're studying. So for Bobby Knight, I had two different people come in over the years that played for him. And both of them said that it started in the recruiting process. He didn't come in the home and talk about basketball. He wanted to know about the family, about your interests,
Yeah.
and he didn't want to talk. He didn't talk to you about basketball. And so before they even got to campus, they felt that he cared.
Yeah.
I think it's a really, I think, I mean, this is always, whenever I bring this up, there's a lot of discussion around it, trying to debate it. But both of these players said that the life lesson they learned by being coached for someone who was as abrasive as
Yeah.
Bobby Knight was is that they said, you know, to put it simply, you can go through life in one of two ways: a sponge or a sieve.
Mm.
And if you go through life as a sponge and you're being coached by someone like Bobby Knight, who is volatile,
Yeah.
you take everything he says, you take it personally, you absorb it, and it becomes a part of you, and you shrink because of it. But if you go through life as a sieve, and it was Steve Alford, he's like, I mean, I just learned that the first 3 or 4 sentences that was going to have all this horrific vitriol in it and all the bad words, that just went through the sieve. And what was left were these nuggets of how to be a better basketball player.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
And
a
I think,
great metaphor for life.
oh, it's fantastic. And if you've done the work before you get in the gym to build a relationship, or the field, or wherever you have to be competing, if you've done the work to have a relationship with the kid, there can be a little bit more abrasive and correction in a
Yes.
harsher way sometimes. But if you don't have that relationship outside of the gym, or out of your whatever sport you're playing, then all that happens is that becomes dodging bullets all the time from that person, as opposed to
Yep.
having felt some love and care. I can handle this on the other side.
That's why I feel that, like, what you're saying is what we talk about, because the course that we teach is transformational coaching and leadership versus
Yeah.
transactional.
Yeah.
But I feel a healthy coach athlete relationship has both. You
Yes.
develop the trust, you develop the relationship, because there are going to be times where you need to bark orders and they need to not question you and go and do what you're asking them to do with enthusiasm and trust
Yeah.
that you're asking them for the right way. But you have to build that trust first.
Yeah, it's such a huge lesson for young coaches, because sport can be the best classroom for life that is available for any young person. But if done in the way that you just laid it out, that's how kids learn and build all these great tools that are going to help them in corporate America or in their relationships later on in life. If you don't do it that way, they're losing out on that huge opportunity to develop that, whatever muscle that is, to get through those difficult times.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that is what I speak to when I do speaking engagements. When I shifted my coaching philosophy and I thought about, okay, how many billions of dollars are being spent on sport worldwide? And what is the purpose of this? Bragging rights? Seriously? It's to be able to say, haha, we beat you? There has to be more sport than haha, we beat you. What is it?
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, my next epiphany came. And it was like, what you learn through sport is grit and resilience and courage, and how to be a part of a team, how to shorten the distance between failure and recovery, how to do all of these things that you do not learn in a classroom.
That's right.
The only place you learn them is in sport, or maybe farming.
Or
If I was
maybe your
in the
classroom.
universe, I think every child should grow up farming, which I did not. But Coach Wooden did, and my husband did. So I think that that's what. But it's like, literally, I was like, those are all the characteristics. And I know this is going to sound corny, but those are grit, resilience, being a part of something greater than yourself, putting team over self. Those are all the characteristics of a superhero. Because
Yeah.
when you think of superheroes, they're not jumping over tall buildings for bragging rights. They're going to save humanity. So I'm going to develop champions in life through sport. And my classroom is the gym. And
Yeah.
because I was at UCLA and I could recruit talent, I knew without a doubt, if I took the time to help develop and fortify every single one of these student athletes into their unique, amazing self, superhero self champion, I knew that that would all translate to the competition floor and the W's would come. We wouldn't have to
If
talk about winning.
If you had a mic right now, you should just drop it because
Okay.
that was
Boom.
all right. Let's dive into mentorship. You had the opportunity to get to know Coach Wooden. Was he like truly one of your mentors, or how and how did that impact you? And I'm gonna ask another question, follow up on that, but let's start with that. Like, what was that like, and why did you choose or have someone who wasn't from your sport be your mentor versus someone within your sport?
It was more of a relationship again. It was started off. I married our defensive coordinator, Bobby Field. Bobby knew Coach Wooden. Bobby had been there since the 70s, coaching. And when Bobby and I got married in 1998, I said, I've never met Coach Wooden. I said, how about if we have him over for dinner? Coach was, I think, 88 years old, maybe. Yeah, 88. And my husband, who was very, very, very much like John Wooden, very humble, grew up farming, very strong faith, you know, he says, my love, I have to do the Southern accent because he's from Texas. He goes, my love, Coach Wooden has got more invitations that he could ever fit on his calendar. The last thing he needs is another obligation. And I said, he can say no. So for 3 weeks straight, I nagged my husband when he came home. And finally, to shut me up, I think one day he came home. He said he called Coach Wooden and said, Coach, I married our women's gymnastics coach. And Coach Wooden said, I know all about Miss Val. And Bobby said, well, Coach, we would love to have you come over for dinner, but I know your calendar's so full. And he went on and on and on. And Coach Wooden said, Bobby, I don't mean to interrupt you. Are you inviting me to dinner? Or are you giving me all the reasons that you don't want me to come?
That's awesome.
So he came. We had dinner at 5:30 because that's when octogenarians, I thought, ate dinner. And he stayed until 11:30. And we just clicked. Coach and I clicked. And later on, when some of his players asked me, how did I develop that such a strong, close relationship with him? That they had good relationships. They didn't have like that relationship
Yeah.
where we'd go to back and forth to dinner. I'd go watch football games with him at his house, and Bobby's still coaching. And he'd come to every single gymnastics meet. His daughter Nan became like a second mom to me because my mom had passed. And I think when I thought about it later on, Coach Wooden was like this. His wife, who passed away in 1985, Nellie, she was a Spitfire. His daughter is a Spitfire. And I am along the same vein.
Yeah.
So we had a really fun friendship. Um, One of the things, I don't know if you're going to ask me or not, but I'm going to ask myself because I think that this is
Please
important to
do.
talk about, is people ask me when they find out that Coach was like, my husband and I were with him in the hospital the day he died. Like we
Yeah.
were close.
Yes.
Um, People say, what's the best advice Coach gave? And if you knew Coach Wooden, everybody says the same thing. Coach Wooden never gave advice. And it was the morning of 9/11, and it was the very first day our team was going to report and have our first team meeting. And I'm driving to work and I turn on the radio and I hear this horrible, horrible news. And I call Coach Wooden and I say, Coach, I'm having our first team meeting in 45 minutes. Everything I'd planned to say is now out the window. This is the worst thing that's ever happened on American soil. What do I say? Give me something. And he said, oh, honey, just listen to your heart and you'll know what to say. And I'm like, no, Coach, you don't understand. I got nothing. And oh, honey, just listen to your heart. And I was like, thanks, Coach. I love you. And I'm hanging out going, thanks for nothing. And I go into the meeting, and sure enough, first girl, they all got tears in her eyes. We're all crying the whole bit. The first student athlete looks to me and says, Miss Val, we're supposed to go in that gym and do gymnastics today, which is it means nothing compared to what's happened in our country and the devastation. She said, I don't know how or why I would ever want to go in the gym and do gymnastics ever again. Why would we do that? And in that instant, my heart said, and I told them, because we can,
Mm,
because we live in a country where people have protected our freedoms, especially as women,
mm,
get an education and to play sport. So not only are we going to go in that gym and do gymnastics, but from this day forward, we're going to do it with more gratitude and appreciation than we ever have in your life. And from that moment on, we started every single practice, lined the team up, took a moment of gratitude, and we took a collective breath to give thanks for those people that have protected our freedoms. Had Coach Wooden told me what I should say, I would have trusted his words
mm,
more than my heart. And Coach wasn't in the room.
yeah. So the best advice you got was listen to yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, that's powerful. Um, how important do you think it is to have mentorship as a coach, both for what you're doing in the relationship building with your players, but also in learning new things, new techniques, different philosophy around the actual technique of your sport? Did you seek that out as you were developing from a dancer into a gymnastics coach? Did you seek that out, or how did you figure that out for yourself?
Well, that's like a two-parter question here. That I hired really good assistant coaches.
Mm,
And I remember hearing early on in my career, outsource your incompetencies.
mm-hmm.
So I didn't try to catch up to them. I had a Jordan Weaver, an Olympic gold medalist on my team. I had Chris Waller, who was just a 1992 Olympian, Randy Lane, a national champion. They knew how to coach the sport of gymnastics. I, um, there was not another gymnastics coach in the country that had my dance background.
Mm,
So my gift to the team and to, I feel like, gymnastics was helping gymnasts and coaches understand the true how to bring artistry, because our sport is called artistic gymnastics. I knew how to bring movement to life better than anybody else. I could coach that. So stay in my competency was that. Um, but I did learn how to teach gymnastics skills or what to look for from the student athletes. And I think, you've been around enough, and I'm hoping that the people that are listening to this, the coaches that are listening to this, all the research shows that one of the best ways to teach is to ask them questions and have
mhm.
the athletes figure it out. So I'd have
Yes.
an athlete fall on beam and she'd come up to me and she'd say, "What do I do wrong?" I'm like, "I don't know."
You tell me.
And we'd go get the film, or I'd look at my phone. I filmed it. I'm like, "What do you see?" And then she
Yeah.
told me what she saw. And that's how I learned from
Yeah.
the athletes. But your first question about, is it important to have a mentor? Absolutely. However, and I did this wrong at the beginning. When you have a mentor is someone that you trust to have your best interest at heart, mentally, emotionally, physically, that you can bounce things off of, not somebody that's going to tell you what to do and how to do
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And what happened was, I felt here I was having this gift of being so close to the great John Wooden, hailed the greatest coach of any sport that's ever lived. Once again, I tried to be like him,
Mm.
and I didn't fail, miserably, but I wasn't authentic to myself. And I wasn't like, you can tell I'm fiery. I'm like
Yeah.
people go to you, yell. Ask me, "Do you yell?" I'm like, "Did you yell?" Yes, I yelled. I'm Greek. Really? Yes. But I learned not to cross the line to making it personal and being demeaning.
Yeah.
You know, that's the line. It's a very
Yeah.
important line. But having a mentor is super, and I'm thrilled that I've got quite a few coaches around the country, assistant coaches and head coaches, that reach out all the time. And they just say, "You know what I do?" And I do, again, I love practicing the pause. It's like, don't tell them what you would do, Valorie. Just help them talk through it, help them walk through it. Give a few different scenarios that may what they want to consider. Because again, I'm not in the room.
Yeah. No, it's a great point, right? Having people figure out stuff for themselves, teach a man to fish versus give him a fish. It is a great way to think about both your assistant coaches, your players, and then for yourself with a mentor, finding someone that will help you process verbally. And sometimes when you do that processing verbally, you're just confirming that what you're doing is right. Sometimes you think, oh my God, did I actually do that? That was terrible. I need to make sure I don't do that again.
Right.
But sometimes that processing and going through that with somebody outside gives you that opportunity to really confirm that what you're doing is you are on the right path. I am talented. I am good at what I'm doing. There is a reason why we're winning. There is a reason why my kids are successful. So it is an important part of that process in coaching.
Right. And I think that if you want the feedback, get the feedback. Develop a culture within your program where you are having anonymous, not anonymous, well, anonymous. I hate anonymous surveys, but you're getting feedback from your student athletes on a regular basis as to how you're coaching, what you're saying, how you're saying it, how are they interpreting it, especially in this generation.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
so much that I think I'm being clear and I am not.
yeah.
And that's
Wow.
on me.
Yeah.
That's not on them.
It's such a good point. I think I could have played for you. Well, I could have done gymnastics for you. So, well, I couldn't have. I'm 6'5" and not very inflexible. So it'd have been a struggle, and I'd have probably not looked very good in one of those uniforms that you
But
guys
we
wear.
don't know that. We haven't seen that, right? And I don't know if we want to, but we don't
No,
know that you would not have looked good in one.
not that at 51 years old now, for sure, you don't want to see that. So, your UCLA, right? This just amazing culture of winning. And national championships are the standard there, right? It's not something that people are aspiring to hopefully do someday. It's aspiring to do again. Like, it is a culture of winning at the highest level. As you're part of that and building your program, how much did that impact you on a daily basis? And what was it like just to be in that environment all the time of winning is just what we do?
It is. It is. I think coaches that have struggled for so long to win a championship, whether it's a conference or whatever, um, you're in the grind and you think, is this ever gonna, like, what magic needs to happen for this to happen? And that you do, being in that environment before our team had won, it was like, okay, what's it gonna take? Seriously.
Yeah.
But as you said, I mean, I mean, there aren't a lot of, I think maybe there's 3 universities around the country that have over 100 championships.
Yeah, it's
Us,
crazy.
Stanford, and SC. And like, if you win a championship, it's a big a deal. And I'm at UCLA, and when I got there, when I took over as head coach, we were in cubicles, which was brilliant because I'm listening to softball,
Mm,
who'd won 11 national championships. I'm listening to track and field. Literally Jackie joining Kersey and Bobby Kersey. They weren't married yet. They're across the hall from my little cubicle. And you're surrounded by this energy of excellence. And there's a swagger, there's a confidence, but there's also a humility that and a respect for the sport and the rigor and the process. You can't achieve that level of excellence, sustained excellence, without humbling yourself. You're
yeah,
not going to achieve that sustained by being arrogant. You're not.
yeah,
You're going to fall.
yeah.
But that's what we were at, and it's so interesting. I'm thinking about this now. We were, a few years later, they built this beautiful athletic department. We all had our own offices, and we felt isolated.
Yeah.
And then football moved out. They had their
Mm.
own little Taj Mahal over there. And then basketball moves out. And the athletic director calls me in his office, and he said, Val, I just feel like the morale is starting to dip. And he said, you've been here a long time. What do you think? I'm like, blow the building up and let's go back to cubicles, like Google, like Amazon, like let's go back to cubicles. That's when we felt like a family.
Yeah.
That's when it wasn't just gymnastics. I was part of this UCLA athletic family of champions.
Yeah, that just walking into a building like that every single day. And I think if you can surround, you already said this about hiring a great assistants to be around you that know what they're doing, right? That makes you a better coach, and being okay with hiring to your weaknesses or your deficiencies, being around other people who are used to winning. And I think the lesson for people out there is surround yourself with as many people who have those kinds of aspirations. And that is going to be something that becomes part of you in some way, shape, or form. You can't be around people like that and not have it impact you in a positive way.
And if you're not in a position with your current situation, where if those people that you're around on a daily basis aren't at that level of in this enthusiasm and inspiration and willing to put in the grind and the work and the reps, find those people that are, and then you be the person that models that.
Yeah.
The rising tide lifts all ships. You
Yeah.
be that person that
Yeah.
lifts that tide. Don't settle for, and don't, as Coach Wooden would say, don't whine, don't complain, and don't make excuses.
Yeah.
You go figure it out, and you go find your posse of champions that, we all know that you become a part of the 5 people that are in your life the most.
Yeah.
Well, go find those 5 people.
Yeah. That's it's great advice. Okay. You win a national championship, right? You start out as the gymnastics coach who almost resigned, that reads a quote from Coach Wooden, decides not to resign, figures out how to build a program in your own likeness, do all the work, and then you win one. Do you remember what the first thought was that went through your head when that was done? Like, what was that like for you? And maybe it wasn't then, maybe it's now that you look back on it, but what was that feeling like when that happened? There's not very many people that have that story that you have. There's not very many people that have won a championship that haven't done the sport themselves. What did that had to be so gratifying?
It was like an exhaustion of, all right, I finally figured this out. And I felt, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but I felt like I finally belonged.
Mm.
Because, I mean, I've had more than a handful of my student athletes tell me I was the original Ted Lasso. So I'm walking around this department, and there are all these badass athletes, and there's like me, and I felt like I was in my tutu the whole time. So I felt like I finally belonged in this world of athletics, and I didn't have to conform to what that would look like. Like me in a polo shirt, no. I do sparkles. I do sparkles and high heels and dresses, and makeup. And I'll never forget Lisa Fernandez, one of the greatest pitchers in softball that ever played the game. Their cubicle was right next to mine. And she comes in one day. She goes, "What the hell is up with you? Your athlete falls on beam, and you go up to her and you give her a hug and a kiss on the cheek?" And I was like, "Yeah, Lisa. She didn't mean to fall on beam."
She wasn't trying to piss me off.
Yeah. I mean, Lisa Fernandez is she's one of the most competitive human beings on the planet. She could not comprehend this. But
Uh,
it was very validating. And then, as I'm sure that having been in athletics for so long, you think the mistake is I'll just do it again next year.
mm,
That's not how it works.
yeah.
You have to continue to mold and grow and alter and change. I mean, it's like, that's why one reason why I kept looking back at Coach Wooden's career. I never got to see him coach, but he won with big guys. He won with small guys.
Yeah.
He adjusted to his personnel,
Yeah.
and didn't make excuses for not having the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's.
Yeah, I think such a good point for coaches, right? Adapt or die. And because
Yeah.
the world's going to change, whether you want to change with it or not, is up to you to make a choice. And remembering that every team is different. So the season ends, whether you
Yes.
won a championship or didn't win a championship, every team's different. Even if you have every single one of your players back, even
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
their athletes, it's still going to be a different team. Even if they were all juniors and 15 juniors and now you have 15 seniors, it's going to be different because they grow, they change, they develop, they get injured, like things happen. And then figuring out how to make the most out of the next group, because it is the next group, not trying to make them the previous group, is a big part of that calculus of how you manage growth going forward.
Yeah. And it's also respect for your new team. They don't want to be compared to the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
There is a whole new, like you said, even if you have all the players back. I had a really great conversation with KJ Kindler, who's the head coach of Oklahoma Gymnastics, and they're like the new dynasty now.
Yeah.
And I said, KJ, because KJ's, she's, I, I, I say she's like Nick Saban of
Yeah.
gymnastics. And I said, how are you doing that in this day and age? Where coaches are so afraid to hold athletes accountable. And she said, Valorie, I flush it all out in the recruiting process. And she said there are things that we have done that are in our playbook that have helped us be successful year after year. Those will not change. Our drills and skills and how we do certain things. She says, but when I go into a home, I don't soft pedal. I don't make them feel like they're going to be the queen coming in. She goes, if anything, I go the opposite.
Yeah.
This is what's going to be expected. This is what has taken us to reach this level of success. This is how we're going to do it. Da, 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 da. And if that doesn't sit well with you, then please understand this is not the program for you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we got all the superstars. I got all the athletes. I got all the Olympians. There's only been 2 Olympic gold medalists in gymnastics that have ever done gymnastics in college. Because when you win a gold medal in gymnastics, you get $1 million. They
Right.
turned it down. Kyla Ross and Madison Koch, and they came to. I got all. That's why they say we were Hollywood. She gets the blue collar kids,
Yeah.
but she's very, and this is super, super, super important to communicate really clearly, effectively, and inspirationally
Mm.
so that they know it's going to be a grind, but we're all going to be in it together and it's going to be so worth it at the end. That's how she has built her dynasty.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to jump out of athletics for a minute. We'll get back to more in a next little piece here. But I want to talk to you. You're a cancer survivor,
Mm.
and which is remarkable in and of itself. What what did your experience, if any, and maybe it didn't, but your experience in athletics and overcoming all
Yeah.
of the things that you've overcome, I think is such a good allegory for life, right? Is of why athletics can be the best classroom for life in a lot of instances. What did you take, and what was that part of you that was like, I'm gonna win this? Like I'm winning. Was there any overlay there, or how did you go through that process?
First of all, you're really good.
Well, thank you. I don't could you say that again?
Yes, you are really, really good. You've done
So
your
you're just trying to
homework.
build a relationship with me so that I'll do more for you. I get it. I understand. That's great. No, thank you
Okay,
very
I've
much.
seen
I
through
appreciate
that.
it. I love doing this.
Yeah, no, you're really good because you've done your homework. And for any of you that are doing your own little podcast, you've done your homework, but you're not just asking questions that you can get from AI. You
Yeah.
know, you're putting thought behind it. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
When I got diagnosed, it was 2014. I was 54 years old, and I felt immediately like I was okay, Valerie. It's time to walk your talk. This is what you preach to your student
Yeah.
athletes about what it means to be a champion in life and to embrace the struggle. Champions are made in the dark. Champions are made when no one else is watching. Champions embrace the suck. Okay, now it's time to walk your talk.
Yeah.
But
And cancer sucks.
cancer. Are you a cancer survivor?
I'm not. No, but I've been around it. I
Yeah.
have one of my best friends is a survivor. This isn't my story today, but I'm it's remarkable to me people who go through that and conquer it and stay in a positive frame of mind with that going on inside their bodies.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this because this is the most important part of my life story so far. When I was when I got the call from my doctor and she said you have a very aggressive form of breast cancer, I went into panic mode. And any of you out there that are listening that have experienced anything like this for a family member or yourself, your brain goes into hyperdrive of fear.
Yeah.
And how many more days do I have to live? And how am I going to tell my family? And do I have to quit
Mm,
my job? And it's going to be painful,
mm,
blah, blah, blah. And in the midst of this cacophony, very loud fear, I heard a whisper:
mm,
be anxious for nothing
mm,
and grateful for all things.
mm.
Now, you can translate that as the universe speaking to me, cosmic energy. This was God speaking to me. And I got snarky with God. And I said, I
How'd
mean,
that go?
shocker, right? Um, and I said, excuse me, God, I don't know if you heard or not, but I have a potentially fatal tumor in my breast. So this be anxious for nothing and grateful for all things. Yeah, that's not sitting really well. And I heard it felt like a spirit passed through me. Be anxious for nothing and grateful for all things. So I go home and I tell my husband the not so great news about the cancer. And then I told him about hearing God twice say to me, be anxious for nothing and grateful for all things. And he says, my good Southern Baptist husband says, my love, that's from the Bible. Well, I've never read the Bible. And my lame excuse is I grew up Greek Orthodox and the Bible wasn't Greek. So he says, go look it up. And so I'm walking to go look it up. And as I'm walking over to look it up, he says, and my love, by the way, God in his infinite wisdom knew he had to tell you twice so you would shut up and listen. I'm like, okay. So anyway, I go and I look this up. Sure enough, Philippians 4. And this is a commandment. This is not a suggestion. But I did not understand how I was not going to be anxious. So I go to the doctor a few days later, and she says to me, if you got diagnosed 10 years earlier in 2004, we had absolutely nothing for your type of cancer. And I would have had to say to you, I'm so sorry, you have about 2 months to live.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Because you're diagnosed at the time that you are, if you choose to get chemotherapy for a year, and if you choose to have surgery, we know it's going to work. And in that moment, I'm getting chills right now, just telling you this.
Me too.
I understood the commandment of how I was not going to be anxious was through gratitude. I didn't have to get chemotherapy. I got to get chemo
Mm,
because I lived at a time that had the chemo. And I live in America. I live in a country that has the chemo. And I had a job that was going to help me pay for the chemo. I was so excited to get chemotherapy. I called it going to my chemo spa because a spa is someplace you go to feel better.
uh,
So switching that one word, have to get to,
mhm.
not only changed my entire experience with cancer, but it's changed every moment of my life since then. And I can honestly tell you and your listeners that gratitude has become my default from the moment I wake up in the morning. I don't think that there is 1 minute of the day that I'm not taking that little micro pause and being grateful for something.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for sharing that. That is it's such a we all get caught up in our day-to-day lives, especially in athletics, right? Because winning and losing is measured in everything that we do. And then something like that happens in life, and the winning and the losing doesn't seem quite as important as the figuring out how to win at that. Like that's remarkable. How long did you go through the process?
A year.
It was a full
Cancer.
year, and
Yeah.
then 1 year, clean bill of health, and have
10
been good
years now.
since.
Woo, woo, 10 years. Um, it was so wonderful. I was beyond blessed. The night before I was supposed to start chemotherapy, they called me and said, I got put into a study where I got targeted chemo. So it acts like a smart bomb. So it didn't destroy stuff. I didn't
Yeah.
get super sick. I was lethargic and all that. But I it was such an incredible opportunity to share with our student athletes because
Mm,
here they are 18 to 23-year-old women And as I told them that I had breast cancer, they all start looking at my boobs. And I have this brilliant idea to let them feel the tumor. So I asked them, I said, do you want to feel what a malignant tumor feels like? Because it didn't feel like, we're all told it's going to feel like a small round pea. Nope. It felt like a long pulled muscle. I'm like, do you want to feel what it too? So the first athlete comes up, she goes, I can't believe I'm feeling Miss Val's boob. I said, time out. I did not invite you to feel my boob. I invited you to feel what a malignant tumor. And my
Very
inner
important
brain is going,
distinction.
HR is going to come down and fire your ass. But I didn't care. This was such a wonderful moment. And so I loved that I was able to do that. And then, every other Thursday I'd go to chemo and I'd tell the girls, I'm like, on Wednesday, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Every once in a while I would say I have to go to chemo. And then one of them would remind me, no, Miss Val, you get to.
Yeah.
And then, they would say, Miss Val, you don't have to put such a positive spin on it. I mean, they're shooting poison through your body. And I said, you know what? But that poison's going to give me more days.
Yeah.
And I'm very appreciative for that.
Yeah. I think, obviously your case of, using cancer to connect with your players and help teach a lesson of life, this is real life, is the extreme end of the pendulum. But you can do that on a day-to-day basis without having cancer, right? And that's a way to build a relationship with your players, is sharing, not oversharing and telling them things that you shouldn't tell them, but being able to involve them in your life is one of those ways that develop deep relationships with your kids.
100%. And that vulnerability is such
Yeah.
a strength.
Yeah.
It is such a strength. Getting back to the class that I teach, the book that we read throughout the course is Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. And
Great book.
she says, the first step to courage is vulnerability. And at the end of every class now, I've taught this for 6 years, I don't remember, but I'll ask them, let's just go around. What's the thing that has hit you the most in this class? And without question, it is, and they're all student athletes, or most of them in this class. They said, I grew up being taught that vulnerability was a weakness. And I realize now what a strength that it is.
Yeah.
And as coaches, I mean, what a wonderful way to develop that relationship. And it shifted the hierarchy. It put us all in the same plane. But as the head coach, I wasn't above them. I just had a different role than what they did.
Yeah.
And for them to be able to feel that they were helping me when I was down they owned that with such a sense of honor and pride. And looking back, I was at UCLA 37 years. That year was the greatest year we ever had as far as being a cohesive unit. And my assistant coaches later on after the year told me that they had gotten together and they said, listen, we're going to do our job so well that we're going to take and alleviate any stress that we can from Valorie. And it showed. I mean, they were cohesive more than they ever were. There was not the bickering. There was not the one-upping. There wasn't any of that. It really was quite remarkable to go through that with everyone. And I do have to just reiterate, I believe that gratitude is the great elixir in life. Because you can't think of two opposing thoughts at the same time. So if you're over here having a pity party, or you're pissed off at someone, or you're feeling depressed, or you're feeling sad, or whatever, as soon as you intentionally think of something that you are grateful for, it acts as an elixir. And I believe choice is the most important word in our language. It's a choice. Coach Wooden and I used to have this argument all the time. Because
you argued with Coach Wooden?
Because he was upset that he didn't put, that's pyramid right there, that he didn't put love as a block in the pyramid. And I said, Coach, if you would have put love as a block in the pyramid, it would have diluted all the other blocks, because all the other blocks take love to bring the blocks to life. And he'd go,
Wow.
"Oh, Valerie." And then he'd say, Mother Teresa said that love is the most important word in our language. And I said, well, I'm going to disagree with you and Mother Teresa. I said, choice is the most important word in our language,
Mm.
because you can choose to love.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose to have faith. You can choose to have gratitude. You can choose to have joy, even in the most harshest moments of your life.
Oh, this is so good. Well, thank you for sharing that and that part of it. And I think, you know, you say it was the best year that you've ever had. The only way that happens, because again, teams are going to have drama and trauma in their lives, right? Maybe not necessarily cancer, but things are going to happen. But you have to have great foundation and great done the work prior to that time, so that when those things do happen, you do have the foundation to get better through those things that just happen to pop up in people's lives. And if you hadn't done the work before, it probably would not have been as successful a year as what you had. So good on you for having the culture and the groundwork built.
Yeah, thank you. And that word love that you said, I mean, how many interviews have we heard this last year from professional athletes? And when they're asked about what was the secret sauce, they say love.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about this on our show all the time, that a coach can tell a kid, just change their day by telling them you love them. You just don't know and what's going on in that person's life, because you can't see when they leave you what's happening, and you may be the only person they hear that from for a long time. And being able to provide that for a young person in that environment where they feel loved and cared about is a really important thing that coaches can do for young people.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much more important than X's and O's.
Well, speaking of X's and O's, I'm going to jump off of that part and move back to some sports for a few minutes here. So we got the Olympics coming to the United States, Summer Olympics in 28. How how are you involved? Are you involved? What is the kind of paying it forward with everything that you've done with athletes that are trying to get ready to make a team for the 28 Olympics? How do you feel about the Olympics, and what is your role in that?
I feel that I just feel like the Olympics, like other things like this, it's such a wonderful way to galvanize our world.
Yeah,
And we need that as much, if not more than ever. Very, very proud, even though I don't live in Los Angeles anymore, that they're coming to Los Angeles.
be cool.
Um, and I have not had a role in the Olympics. I've had Olympians, a lot of them, on our team. Um, but I'm literally, it's funny you asked me right now. I'm literally speaking with an agency about doing some interviews with Olympic athletes, and I'm like, I don't want to do just gymnastics. Like, I want to do like all, like, I want to go to the farmland that's some hockey player is on, or some, Brody Malone lives. He grew up gymnast, male gymnast, last gymnastics um, Olympian, and he grew up in rodeo. I want to go back and have him teach me how to rope a cow. I'm
Yeah,
like, what makes you you,
yeah,
not just a great athlete.
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm contemplating doing that. I don't know if I will or not, but that's in the very embryonic stages.
That
Um, but the
that's the cool
Olympics,
part about it too, right? Is everybody has a story.
everybody
Like
has
being
a
able,
story,
and that's what people connect to, right? We see them for 2 weeks in competition, but what is that story that
right?
these people that have gone through to
Right.
get to where they are?
Right. I was I Simone Biles had committed to come to UCLA, and then she went pro, like dagger to my heart. But I've known Simone since she was she was a young teenager. And we just did a speaking engagement together in Vegas for a global health organization. 7,000 people. And they asked me to moderate her, which I love moderating Simone, because I hate the normal rote questions, right?
Right.
So after about 15 minutes, I'm like, okay, 7,000 people here. I said, I feel like there's a circle of trust here. I said, Simone, so I know you really well, and you can be a total brat. And she's just laughing. She's like, yeah, I can. And I'm like, I can be a brat too. I said, let's just put it out there, circle chat. How many of you can be brats? And the camera guy raises his hand. And Simone gets out of her chair and runs over to him. And she goes, thank you so much, camera guy, for raising your hand. And it was such a cute moment. And then we just talked about, why do you go to Brat? And how do you get out of Brat? And how do you make sure that Brat doesn't affect the rest of your teammates that you're training with? And it was a nice little insight into Simone Biles that I don't think many people see.
Yeah. Well, besides that, what are you doing now? What's your role? What are you doing now? Tell us what you've got going on besides
Okay.
maybe doing that.
Well, thank you for asking. When I retired, I had another conversation with God. Bobby goes, do you ever stop talking long enough to listen? Um, I had another conversation with God, and I just said, God, I'm retiring at the top of my game. We just won a championship all over Good Morning America and Steve Harvey and Ellen, all these places. And I was like, I feel a calling to have bigger impact. And it's not about the money and it's not about the celebrity. It's about simply sharing and having conversations like this
Yeah.
to have a bigger impact, especially with what's going on in our world and how to make sure that this generation and parents of this generation are understanding how important it is to help your children fill their tool belts with tools that are going to help them be champions in life and
Yeah.
not make the road easier for them,
Yeah.
but how to be able to handle that adversity. And
Yeah.
that's when life gets fun.
That's
So
right.
what I'm doing now, I do a lot out of speaking. And I mean, Chick-fil-A, anything 10,000 people at Chick-fil-A. I've done some summits for Alex Rodriguez to to breast cancer events to little gyms. Like it doesn't matter the magnitude of it. All that matters is the impact.
Yeah.
And when I do speaking engagements, I ask if I can follow it up with a workshop because the one thing I miss about coaching is planting a seed and then being able to drip, 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 water it. And when you do a speaking gig, it's like one and done. There's no follow through.
Yeah.
And I
Can you
just
do a
love that.
workshop with me?
Yeah, absolutely. I say yes to everything. I'm like my manager's like, you know that after taxes, you're not gonna make any money off of this. I said, I don't care. I
That's
don't
great.
care.
Well, it is so important to give back to the sport that you're a part of, and maybe not just the sport you're part of, but the sports world in general. If it's given you so much, and I feel the same way. That's why we started this, is to try to have an impact on young people and the people that support young people. And what you said just resonates so deeply with me that one of the biggest aspects that I believe sport can teach is how to fail. Yes, we want to learn how to win, but the really cool part of sport is that life is a series of losses, right? You're going to lose in life, and athletics gives you a safe environment to go through a process and potentially lose, get yourself back up the next day, and have to figure out how to go through that process again, and then go compete again. And maybe lose again, and hopefully not, but maybe lose again, and then rinse and repeat that over and over again. And if young people can learn that at a young age and put that into their lives for the future, their athletic experience will have been a great one, whether or not they won a championship or not.
100%. That is the key. That is 100% the key. Because so many people, they complain when life gets hard.
Yeah.
Well, when were you ever promised easy?
Yeah.
We, and to shift, like what I try to do with especially young athletes, let's and that's why the parents are so important to get involved in conversation. We
Yes.
have to shift it. Struggle isn't bad.
Mm-mm.
The struggle I look at it as the universe saying to me, all right, atta girl, here we go. I'm going to throw you this now. Let's see how you're going to get through this, over, around, or through it. It's a compliment from the universe.
Yeah.
And when we try to make everything easy, there's no growth in easy.
That's right.
There's only growth in the struggle, which is why this is like, okay, I don't know who you need to have on, but you have to have somebody on that can talk about what's going to happen. Like, I'm very fearful about what's happening in collegiate athletics. Very fearful
Yeah,
with NIL and transfer portal and profit sharing and blah blah blah. I think there's going to be a lot of programs that are not going to be able to survive, and the
totally agree.
casualties of those programs, it's our youth.
Totally. And it's
It's
already happening.
it's
That
horrible.
that's a big conversation, and I really want to have an AD from one of the Power Four schools come on, getting them to do that. Maybe getting them on the air to have a conversation about the negative aspects of it might be difficult, but I really want to make that
I
happen.
got an AD for you.
Okay, perfect. Let's do that off air so we don't. Well,
Yeah.
maybe let's put them on the spot right now. See if they want to come on. No, I'm kidding.
I'll
Um,
give him a call.
well, I cannot tell you how much I have enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I did as much homework as I could, but if I missed something that we should have talked about, can you please tell me so that we don't leave some ground uncovered that we should have opened up here?
Again, you're really, really, really good. Like, you know how they like the ads, they ask you to fill out the 5 stars. Like, I'm giving you that 5 stars.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I really can't think of much of anything because I feel like we're on such the same wavelength
Yeah,
that we and when you ask me what I'm doing now, we have to keep the conversation going about is and this is my TED Talk. Oh, did you like my plug for my TED Talk just now?
yes, please to plug
Um,
whatever you want.
is all winning success.
Yeah,
And it starts, God, with the parents.
yeah,
And I know that parents are so fearful that they've got to get their children in that travel league. They've got to get that D1 scholarship. They've got to get, but it's like, let's just go about it the right way. Um, the right way is to make sure that the you are modeling what you want to instill in your children. And if you want your child to be gritty, you don't just say go be gritty.
that's right.
You fill them up with confidence.
Yes.
You fill them up to be able to handle adversity. You
Yeah.
get them to understand that I hate the word failure, first of
Yeah.
all, but I can't come up with a better word. That failure is an opportunity to grow.
100%. We
And
are aligned.
when you look at Patrick Mahomes and he throws a ball that's nowhere near the receiver, he doesn't have a pity party.
Yeah.
You can get upset and pissed off, but don't waste 1 ounce of your precious time having a pity party. You spend that time figuring out what to do better next time to not have the ball, to have the ball go exactly where he wants it to go. That's what separates the good from the great. And as a parent, those are the questions you have to ask your children. Don't ask how many points they scored, how many minutes they played, why didn't you pass the ball more? Don't ask those questions. That's the coach's job. Ask, okay, how did you help a teammate today? Ask your child before they get out of the car, how are you going to get 1% better? And a lot of the times the answer should be the mental game.
Yeah. Totally.
I'm not going to allow myself to have mental. Ask your child, did you work really hard today at that thing that you don't like to do? Conditioning.
Yeah.
Most children, and I learned this from being at the Aspen Institute, 95% of children, when they decide to quit sport, they decide on the car ride home.
That's exactly so if you'll go back, if you listen to anything that we talk about, that car ride home is the most dangerous time in a young person's sport career if they're going to continue to go. And there's so much science out there. I don't know if you've heard this or not,
Yes.
but there's so much science out there that says kids want to hear this from their parents. I love you and I love watching you play. And then don't do all the things that you talked about. Don't do all those things about the coaches and Johnny or Sally and what she did wrong and you should be playing. They don't want to hear all that.
Right.
And then wait an hour before you have a conversation about anything related to what just happened And then, as you said, ask the right questions, not about their performance and whether they made the basket or didn't make the basket, whether they caught the ball, didn't catch the ball, whether they landed a dismount or didn't land the dismount. What did the things you just talked about versus performance? And if you do that for a kid, now you're building the fact that they want to go back and they can't wait to see you after the game.
Right. 100%. And the science, what you said, this isn't just you talking. There's science behind this and research
100%.
behind it. And
Great
then,
think tank for all those people out there. There's a great think tank, Michigan State University, that has a ton of information about this, about the relationship between parent and child, which is where I got most of my stuff that we talk about. And it is fascinating information on the car ride home. It's good stuff.
and then parents, coaches, you need to model behavior that you want from your child. And I was talking with parents about this very thing. And I was telling kids exactly what you said. At some point, you still need to talk to your parents. They're your parents. Okay?
Yes.
You don't have to talk on the car ride home, but you have to. And there was this little girl. She was about 8 years old. And she wasn't being mean or snarky. She said, Miss Val, I like to talk to my mommy, but I want to talk to her whole face.
Mm.
And the room went silent.
Oh, that's so good.
And the mom got tears. And I said, do you know what she's talking about? And the mom looked at her daughter and she goes, are you saying that mommy's always on her phone talking to
It's
her?
so good.
And it was wonderful. And this woman was, talk about vulnerability being a strength. I said, would you? You don't have to, but could you come up here and we can have a conversation about this? She was great. And I asked her, I said, do you expect your daughter to look at you when you talk to her? And she said, absolutely. And I said, but you don't look to her. And she goes, I do not. And she goes, I've gotten the message loud and clear.
Yeah.
Then when they were leaving, her daughter wasn't in earshot. She comes up to me. She goes, Miss Val, I just need you to know my daughter talks a lot.
They'll say the darndest things.
Yeah. But it's like, again, model that behavior.
Yeah, totally.
If you don't watch your child pitching a fit and acting like a jackass in a game, then you don't get to act like that in the stands.
That's right. I don't know if Jason told you this, but one of the reasons we started this, I was in I'm going to keep, I talk about this on as many of these podcasts as I can, but I was in a coaches meeting coaching my son's 8th grade football team last year, and about 300 coaches in, and the liaison between the referees and the coaches walks in and says, no more talking to referees, period. No more tolerance. And the reason being is we had a parent in a 3rd grade football game take the down and distance marker, turn it into a javelin, and throw it at the referee, hit the referee, and send him to the hospital. And when Jason and I started talking about doing something together, I'm like, okay, we need to do something that has an impact on the youth sports system as we know it, although there isn't really a system, but the youth sports environment as we know it. And what do you think all the kids, the trickle down effect from that event had on those kids, those parents, the coaches? Like, it's just a horrible thing. So being able to model positive behavior for young people and for them to get out of that classroom for life, what they're supposed to, is critical.
100%. That is so gross, that story.
It's gross. And you can find it. Google bad parent behavior at a sporting event.
Yeah.
And the things that you can find will just turn your stomach.
Ugh.
Yeah. Don't do that. It'll ruin your day. Just trust me that there's a lot of it out there.
Okay, I trust you.
All right. Well, I've got something we do at the end of the show with every guest. You and I talked about this beforehand, and you don't have a dad joke. So
I know. I didn't even know what a dad joke was.
Man, oh man. Okay. Well, I'm glad I can inform you on something. Okay. Let's see.
Am I supposed to tell the joke?
Well, I'm going to tell it to you today. Normally you would tell them, but since you don't have one, I'm going to.
And am I expected to laugh?
No.
Okay.
What did the yogi tell his restless students?
I don't know.
Don't just do something, sit there.
Okay, that's funny. That's funny.
They're all funny. I can't.
They're all funny.
I do. I think they're all funny. And even if they're not funny, then here's another one. Since I'm a basketball guy, we're going to do two today.
Okay.
Why is basketball such a messy sport? Because everybody just dribbles on the floor.
Okay.
See? Now
That's
you're a dad
true.
joke fan. I have accomplished something today.
That's
I've
true.
got Miss Val laughing at a dad joke. That's good
Okay,
stuff.
I will tell my 10-year-old grandson those
Oh,
jokes.
I promise you, you ask your 10-year-old for a dad joke, he'll have one for you.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All right. Last thing today. If you could go back in time and tell your 14-year-old self, although we say we don't like to give advice, I remember that from our interview today. But if you were forced to give your 14-year-old self advice, knowing everything that you know now, what you've been through, what would that be? What would you tap yourself on the shoulder and just remind yourself of?
Uh, I would remind myself I would start the practice of gratitude much earlier than I did because I had growing up so much to be grateful for that I didn't realize that I had to be great. I had a great family. I was a ballerina. I had a great, I didn't suffer anything growing up. My mom died when I was 23. That was bad. But my 14-year-old self, and this is what I do with young people now. When I ask them to close your eyes, take a breath, and I want you to think of two things that you've not earned. Because I want them to think of you were born into your family. And if you love your family, that you didn't earn that. You have a home. You didn't earn that. You can get out of bed and walk by yourself. You didn't earn that. You have water. You have clean water to drink. There's some children in our country that don't have clean water to drink. You didn't earn that. And it's interesting because even with adults sometimes when I do this with coaches and they'll say, Miss Val, it took me a while to actually think about something I have not earned.
Yeah.
But that's what I would tell my 14-year-old self. And I, looking back on what it would have done, it would have allowed me to actually go through my high school career and years more brilliantly than I did. It would have made me really appreciate, the education my parents taking me, to ballet rehearsal and class every day, every night. My friends, all of those things that I didn't really earn. I mean, I had a great childhood.
Well, I think it's great advice, and I think it's something that I'm going to take from this too. Forget about that on a regular basis. On being grateful for all of the things that have come my way. I think everybody can probably do a better job at that. And our world would probably be a little better place if we all just operated in that way.
And you know what? I just want to just hit home on this a little bit more.
Yeah.
When you think of something you're grateful for, it it enforces a pause. And there's so much talk about mindfulness and stillness these days. To think of something you're grateful for, you have to take a pause.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to come from a place of abundance. Your gratitudes don't come from a place of scarcity. Your gratitudes come from a place of something you have in abundance.
Mm.
And to be able to do that, I literally time myself because people go, I don't have time like that during the day. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call them bullshit.
That's right.
You can bleep out all my bad words that I've said.
That's
But
not going to happen.
okay. But like I've literally timed myself. It takes between 4 and 7 seconds
Mm.
to pause to say, I am so grateful that I have this clean water and I have as much as I want. Okay, how long did that take? 4 seconds.
Yeah.
But you know how people go spend an hour doing yoga or meditation? Imagine, it's the compound effect.
Yeah.
Making gratitude your default, you're adding up all these little seconds throughout the day of calmness and stillness. And and in intentionality. I think it's brilliant.
So do I. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time. You can choose to do anything, and choosing to spend some of your time with us means a lot to us. And I don't know how I didn't meet you along the way somewhere
I
before
know.
in this world, but I am grateful that I have now.
Thank
There's
you.
my gratitude for the day.
I am grateful as well. I knew I would enjoy it, but I did not realize how much. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Until next time.
Bye bye.
Welcome back. Anthony Leverett's here, host of the Next Pitch podcast, and just finished up my conversation with Valorie Kondos Field, better known as Miss Val to all the people that know her. What a remarkable human being, and obviously the accolades that go along with her are pretty remarkable. But I think she's an even better person than she was, coach, and that's why she probably was so successful. And I think it's just amazing that she was not a gymnast and managed to figure out how to become a world-class gymnastics coach. And I think there's all sorts of reasons that people are successful, and you have to figure out uh, what is going to make you successful. And she, I think she said she was 30 when she got offered the job at UCLA, and 32 when she almost quit because by her own standards she was the worst coach in America. And obviously she wasn't, but she at that point in time had some like a aha moment that really changed how she approached her players. And I think number one, she started asking her kids questions and how to figure it out on their own. And instead of being a hard ass and I'm gonna dictate to you everything that you do, I'm gonna use a different teaching method to help you learn. And I think beginning to make that change for all coaches is critical. Yes, you are the subject matter expert, and yes, you know, but if you can get your kids to start asking questions, you asking them questions, there becomes this free flow of back and forth conversation about how we're going to get better at what we're doing. I think she nailed that on the head, and clearly that worked very well for her. The hiring people around you that are really good at the things that you're not good at, whether or not you are in business, in sport, finding people that fill those gaps for you, that you can focus on doing the things that you're great at. And Miss Val talked about, she knew she was a dance coach and there were certain things she could do to get people prepared for the moment, but having the other people around her that knew how to coach the skills required to do all of that at a level that she knew she was never going to be able to get to is critical. And being able to have enough confidence in yourself to bring those kinds of people in shows a lot about your character and your commitment to making sure your players and her players, but your players, if you're listening to this, have the best opportunity to succeed and win, which is what, as coaches, we all need to do or we don't have a job. But how you get there is very different in the path that you can choose to get there. And then uh, cancer. I've been around a couple people in my life that have survived cancer, and having an opportunity to talk to Miss Val about her journey was pretty impactful. And for most people, we call it cancer survivors, but the way I look at it and the people that I've met that been through it, I would say they kicked cancer's ass and they got into a fight with cancer and won. They didn't survive it. They had a plan to figure out how to win. And I think, not everybody is going to have cancer in their life, but you're going to have trauma and drama and things that happen along the way in your life. And going back all the way to the beginning of why we started this podcast, athletics at the youth level, the middle school level, the high school level, the college level, the pro level, can really help prepare people for when they get to that moment in their life where they got to have resilience. They got to learn or get back up from something bad that happens to them and fight to make sure that they get through that. And Miss Val certainly is more than a survivor. She is a survivor and thriving in life. I got a ton out of the conversation with her. I enjoyed it immensely. I hope you did as well. As always, Jason and I would appreciate if you rate us, if you follow us. The best way to spread podcasts from everything we've heard is to not through social media and advertising, but to have people that listen to your show, like your show, and recommend it to somebody else. So if you have a chance to do that, we would greatly appreciate it. For all of you listening, continuing to listen, thank you so much. And until the next show, have a great day.